heinous and cowardly act. And given what we now know about what took place, the FBI is investigating it as an act of terrorism.
A Boston University graduate student is among the dead in the marathon attack, and Mayor Tom Menino vows we will not let terror take us over. It's Tuesday, April 16th, the day after terror at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Good evening. I'm Andy Bunker.
And I'm Arden Bronstein. This is a BUTV special report, Terror at the Finish Line.
We begin with late word that a Boston University graduate student is among the 3 people killed in the bombings. The student's name has not been released, but was reportedly among 3 students who were near the finish line. One of those other students was critically injured in the blast as well. The university has not identified the student, but the Chinese consulate in New York tells us that she is Zhao Danling, a graduate student in the Metropolitan College. Boston Medical Center officials told us late today she's in critical condition.
The other victims include 29-year-old Crystal Campbell of Medford, Massachusetts. At the finish line, she was taking a photograph of a friend's boyfriend who was running the race. Campbell managed a restaurant in Arlington. Her father says she was a very caring and very loving person and was Daddy's little girl. Also killed was 8-year-old Martin Richard of Boston's Dorchester section. Martin gave his dad a hug at the finish line after Bill, his father, ran in the marathon. Sadly, when the young boy ran back to his mother, the first bomb exploded and killed him. Martin's mother and sister also suffered serious injuries. Eyewitness of the bombing was Mike Murphy.
Really what you're seeing, and I thought I saw a child laying to the left, and my wife didn't see that, as she later told me, and I thought perhaps it was clothing or perhaps it was someone's limb, because there was a man there missing a limb. But it was surreal, and it was, whoever did it was just the embodiment of evil.
Here's the latest from investigators. There were 2 bombs, no more. They were packed with nails and ball bearings. There are no claims of responsibility and no evidence of any additional threat. Investigators say they've had 2,000 tips. Boston was open for business today, but not business as usual. Back Bay residents and businesses can continue to expect a lockdown for the majority of this week in the wake of yesterday's bombings. The focal point of the crime scene was the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Emma Clark joins us with more on the day in Boston.
Thanks, Arden. Downtown Boston certainly has a different feel in the aftermath of Monday's events. Hundreds of citizens and runners gathered on the corner of Boylston and Arlington today to try to catch a glimpse of the scene. Runners who were unable to finish the race were also able to claim their medals today. But what is normally one of the most lively streets in Boston, Boylston, would only resemble a ghost town 24 hours following Monday's tragedy.
The streets surrounding Copley Square were barren less than 24 hours after the Marathon Monday attack. Barricades and police officers were located at the intersection of Boylston and Arlington, trying to pick up the pieces. Runners walking the street were willing to reflect and share on what they went through the day before.
I was finished, and Alan had finished as well, my boyfriend, and we actually just met at this spot here at Arlington and Boylston, and we were on our way through the park and back towards our hotel when we heard the noise, and we thought it was thunder, and we were kind of like, gosh, that's thunder, the weather's changing. And we went on, and we were almost back at our hotel, and we got a text from a friend of ours who was running in the last wave to say that there'd been explosions. We just thought it was gas explosions in a shop or something. And then obviously we got back to the hotel and saw the news. We couldn't believe it, but thankfully we were well finished and out of the way.
But the city of Boston is banding together by putting down flowers, drawing pictures, and hanging up shirts to show their support for the victims of yesterday's attack. For those who didn't finish running or were not able to pick up their belongings, they were instructed to go to the castle at Boston Park Plaza today to receive their medals and their bags.
Overwhelming in the greatest way. Really, really organized and exceptionally helpful. You know, from the moment I walked in, everybody took care of us and helped us, you know, in any way that they possibly could. You know, it didn't feel like of fast or bad service at all. You know, they took my number, they got my bag, they helped me patch it together. They put the metal around my neck, which was really cool. And then, you know, they made sure that we ate. I live, you know, a mile and a half away. They made sure that we ate, and there are incredible services here as well.
Boston citizens and Boston police are doing their best to put this event in the past, but one can only imagine it will take time to heal the emotional damages this Monday has created. Marathon Monday 2013 will always be remembered.
The blocks surrounding Copley Square still remain closed off to all non-police and military personnel. Until the area is reopened, all bus and train routes will bypass the area, and drivers and pedestrians are advised to seek alternate routes.
So Emma, what's the next step for that area of Boston? Do they have any idea when the streets or businesses will be able to reopen?
Well, Arden, as of right now, they don't know when the streets will be reopened. They first have to get all of them clear, and then they will slowly start to reopen side streets that have been closed off first before they open Boylston Street itself. As the streets open back up, the majority of the businesses should as well, but the entire process will likely still take several days.
First responders are being hailed as heroes following their immediate response to yesterday's attack. Police, fire, and EMS were supported by a crew of volunteers, including one Boston University student athletic trainer who was there to help tired marathoners as they finished the race. She was so shaken up, she went back to her hometown of Acton, Massachusetts for the day, where BUTV reporter Mike Neff spoke with her.
Mariana Ritter-Rover was helping exhausted marathon runners one block past the finish line when all of a sudden the first explosion occurred.
That my job was to help those people who couldn't even stand up on their own. They couldn't make it another few feet because their bodies just completely gave out. And then after this happened, I look and there's a stampede of them, and it's just they just ran a marathon and now they have to run for their lives.
What difference do you think the volunteers like yourself and the first responders, they're in such close proximity to the explosion, what difference do you think that made for the people, the victims that were injured?
I think they made a huge difference. I think it didn't even last a split second before people started running over to the area. I think if we're talking about limbs being lost, and based on the pictures that I've seen with all the blood, it would have been a matter of seconds if people had just run away and let the situation happen. They could have bled out, whereas people were there right away, probably applying tourniquets and pressure, trying to stop the bleeding. I think that could have definitely saved their lives.
At approximately 4:40 today, the area in front of 725 Commonwealth Avenue, which is the BU College of Arts and Sciences building, was blocked off after reports of a suspicious package were received. Police officers blocked St. Mary's Street as bomb-sniffing dogs searched the area. The area was blocked off for about 15 minutes as the dogs went to work. The dogs didn't find anything, and the area was reopened right before 5 o'clock.
Where there is a candlelight vigil occurring for those lost and injured in yesterday's marathon bombings. As you can see, several members of the BU community have come together, including students and faculty members, in memoriam for those affected.
It honestly brings tears to my eyes when I see how people can come together and really support each other.
As like most community, I'm very saddened by what happened, and I'm like all that's coming together right now is really great just for all of us, I think, to heal.
This area in Marsh Plaza was actually an investigation scene not long ago due to an unknown and unspecified package that was found. BUPD has since cleared the area and has confirmed it safe, but it does show that there is terror in the community and that people are on edge from yesterday's bombings.
You really think of these things happening across seas or in other cities, and to think that it's happening here to our community it's been hard. It's been a really tough couple days.
When stuff like this happens, it's going to hurt at first, as most events like this. But what it does is it brings everyone even closer than we are now, because we all recognize we have strength in one another, and that brings us closer, like I said before, that we can tackle these things, and they may happen to us, but even though these bad things might happen, we'll get closer and we won't let these things affect us forever.
In addition to this vigil today, the BU community plans to go forward by supporting one another and by having grief counselors available to the students and faculty members in need. For BU News Service, I'm Erica Stapleton at Marsh Plaza.
Students were back on campus today at BU, less than 24 hours removed from last night's tragedy. I had the chance to speak with several of them earlier today to find out how they're feeling at school.
Everybody's going to be a little bit more vigilant now, especially as the 4th of July comes around and other sort of public, if we're in big sort of events. I think everybody's going to be a little more alert.
I mean, personally, I don't know if I feel less safe here on campus, but if I was going to take a walk down that way, I think I would, for sure.
No, I mean, I'm from Washington, D.C., and I was around when 9/11 happened, so I'm kind of used to being on high alert, and that's, what D.C. is, really. There can be a suspicious package anywhere, anytime, and you hear about it. So, I mean, while I feel concerned and kind of, feel down today, I don't feel any less safe than I did before.
Not at all. It's not about the people that are going to go out and try and ruin our time or the amazing day that it is. It's one of the best days I think in Boston, if not the country. It's Patriots Day. It represents the resiliency that this country has had, as well as there's always a Red Sox game, so that outpour of fans from there is amazing. Plus it's the marathon, so I think it's one of the best days of the year, and for people to try and stop that, it's not going to happen.
The marathon bombings brought terror very close to Boston University. Many students were along the race route and near the finish line. We just heard from a few who were back on campus today. This afternoon, I sat down with Dean of Students Kenneth Elmore to see how the university is moving forward.
Overall, a lot of the people that I've encountered are deeply sad. Some folks are very anxious and fearful. And there are plenty of people who've said that they just feel numb about what's happened over the course of the last 24 hours. So it's really been a sad experience overall. We are a campus in the middle of the world, and we're in this wonderful, vibrant city. And I think that our police force, they do an incredible job at trying to make sure that the properties that we have are indeed safe, trying to make sure that we provide access in and out of those spaces to the people who belong there, meaning the students of the university, faculty and staff, affiliates of the university. They try to be proactive about everything that they can. And, we still live in a world, though, where it's hard to guarantee anyone 100% safety, but I do think that generally speaking, when you're on the university's campus, you're relatively safe. Every individual is probably going to have to face up to how they've got to live their lives going forward. It's one of those things that's very shattering to a person's life, especially when they're very conscious and very close to an event like this. I sincerely hope that we don't let hatred take the day here and let fury have its force. I hope that we can remain our best selves, that we can be measured, that we can hopefully find out why and who. This is the kind of thing that can just be crushing to the spirit. And so I'm really concerned about, and was concerned immediately about, how crushing this kind of an experience was going to be for the students here. I would hope too that I could say to my daughter and my son, you have a mission, and one of your missions is to be educated in a good institution so that you can go out in the world, hopefully, to make sure that these kinds of things don't happen to other people.
Dean Elmore says that although he understands many BU students are grieving, it is important to not let yesterday's events keep anyone from going out into Boston and leaving the campus. He encourages students to reflect deeply and not let the attack rob anyone of a positive experience while here at BU.
Train for, large-scale events in what we do is.
And we'll hear from a BU student who was at the finish line when the bombs went off. We'll also hear from a member of the BU PD speaking about the university's safety measures. All that and more when Terror at the Finish Line continues.
Something like this, but you prepare for it.
At least 1,000 law enforcement personnel are working the bomb investigation. Boston FBI Chief Richard Delorier says there are no claims of responsibility. He's urging the public to turn over pictures and videos. Investigators are following up on some 2,000 tips.
Some of our activity you may see, some of it you won't. But rest assured, we are working hard to get the answers. At this time, there are no claims of responsibility. The range of suspects and motives remains wide open. Importantly, the person who did this is someone's friend, neighbor, coworker, or relative. We are asking anyone who may have heard someone speak about the marathon or the date of April 15th in any way that indicated that he or she may target the event to call us. Someone knows who did this.
And we learned more about the bombs today. They may have been so-called pressure cooker bombs, explosives and metal packed into a cooking pot. The FBI believes they were taken to the finish line in black nylon bags or backpacks. ABC News reports investigators found part of a circuit board that may have been used to detonate the bombs.
The bombings hit close to home for many here at Boston University. BU Police Chief Thomas Robbins assures students that safety is the highest priority as the investigation continues. Adam Jakubiak sat down with the head of the school's police force.
Does this event change any way you and your staff operate on a daily basis?
Not really. I mean, what you prepare for certainly is to respond to events. Certainly don't want anything this devastating of this magnitude, but that is part of your training. When we trained after 9/11 and continue to train after 9/11 in light of the active shooter situations we've seen across the country. So we train for, large-scale events. We put our officers out where they're most likely to be needed and where they can respond quickly to an event. You prepare for it. You prepare for the worst. You hope it doesn't happen. But I think that particularly our department is very well prepared and very well situated for an event like this.
Can you describe briefly about what today has been like in the aftermath for you and your staff? Like how crazy or have things been, perhaps? The
best analogy I can give you is if you take a bee and put it in a bottle and watch it fly around and buzz around. It's been that type of active day. There's a lot of information that's being sought from the university and the department. There's a lot of calls coming in and out in terms of police activity, investigations, not particularly focused on the campus, but just in police general. We're going to make sure that we have extra patrols in the area for the next few days at least until this investigation unfolds. But we want to make sure our number one priority is the community here, the campus community. We want to make sure we, the community members and the students, faculty, and staff feel safe, and we want to make sure that they are in fact safe, which I can assure they are.
Federal agents are now saying that the man tackled to the ground first by a bystander and then by police may have no connection to the bombing at all. The man had his Revere apartment searched overnight by FBI agents who were seen removing paper, plastic, and duffel bags from the scene. Investigators believe that he was running to protect himself, as many other witnesses did.
In the immediate aftermath of the explosions, confusion overcame much of the area as spectators were unsure of what to do. BU TV reporter Kiva Liu was near the blast site and was able to capture those frantic moments and speak with some people as they ran for safety.
Yes, we were walking down the street to go to the finish line, and all of a sudden there was a big, huge boom. Smoke came flying out, and another boom, and everybody started running. And that was exactly what happened. My daughter's Melanie Powers, and right now we just found out that she's at Heartbreak Hill. But there was a lot of runners there.
Many runners, yeah. We were in the third wave with all the charity runners, so that is probably the biggest wave of runners still to come in.
I feel a little weary since I was in New York in 9/11, and it's just a shame that we can't even enjoy sporting events without having to worry about being harmed.
And we're hoping none of these wonderful athletes got hurt, which is possible.
Coming up, President Obama on the Boston bombings.
Terror at the Finish Line continues in a moment.
After the attacks on 9/11, sports were credited as helping the nation heal. Last night's Bruins game was canceled, as is tonight's Celtics game. The Red Sox will be at home this weekend for a series, and the London Marathon is set for Sunday. Sports is often a distraction, but yesterday's attack brought back memories of the 1996 Olympic Games. Tragedy struck at Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta, marking the last time that a major sporting event was interrupted by terrorism. Lives were lost on American soil during those games, echoing the tragedy of the Munich massacre in 1972. Yesterday's bombing came at a time when many had their guards, celebrating one of the city's most beloved events.
President Obama will travel to Boston Thursday for an interfaith service at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross. Earlier today, he vowed justice will be done.
The American people refuse to be terrorized, because what the world saw yesterday in the aftermath of the explosions were stories of heroism and kindness and generosity and love. Exhausted runners who kept running to the nearest hospital to give blood, and those who stayed to tend to the wounded, some tearing off their own clothes to make tourniquets. The first responders who ran into the chaos to save lives. The men and women who are still treating the wounded at some of the best hospitals in the world.
As the city of Boston continues to regroup in the wake of this horrible tragedy, one thing is for sure: this is a resilient town. The outpour of support, both locally and nationally, has unified Boston in a difficult time.
On what is annually a day of celebration and of both athletic performance and patriotism, our community suffered a major blow. But it is clear from what we have seen on tonight's show that Bostonians will not live in fear.
As this story continues to develop, be sure to stay up to date with BUTV 10. Our next live broadcast is tomorrow's noon news. For BUTV, I'm Andy Bunker.
And I'm Arden Braunstein. Thank you for joining us for a BUTV 10 special production, Terror at the Finish Line. Good night.